Good morning. Hi, friends. For those of you who might not know who I am, my name is Libby, and welcome to my audio journal, Finding Joy in the Shadows. I can't believe I'm actually saying these words and I'm really doing this. Um, Today, I am stepping way out of my comfort zone. For starters, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm recording this from my house. I don't have a professional studio. I don't have soundproofing on my walls. So you're getting what you get. Sorry. Um, I never went to broadcast school. Um, sure, if you look at my profile on LinkedIn, at one point in my professional life, I did work for Clear Channel, if I'm allowed to say that. But I only sold airtime. I never worked the boards or edited anything. I worked with a lot of talented and creative people, but I would not have placed myself in that category. And let's face it, the idea of doing a podcast is pretty surreal because it's scary, right? I'm putting myself into a situation that I have zero control over. I don't know how it's going to be received. Um, and it's scary. And I keep going through these waves, right? Where one minute I'm excited for the possibilities that this could lead to. And then the next, I am completely freaking out because I feel like an idiot for agreeing to put myself out there in the first place. So, like I said, I have no idea how my words are going to be received. My hope is that if anyone is listening, that you will receive my stories positively. But I am aware I have no control over this. So it's trial by fire, I guess. Um, so welcome. Welcome to my very first podcast. I guess probably should start not from the beginning, because we don't have time for that. But let me give you a little background into how I got here. I would say probably about 2 years ago, roughly 2 years ago, I had this random thought bubble and I thought it might be fun to do a podcast. Where this thought bubble came from, I have no idea, no clue. Um, at first, I was scared to share the idea, wasn't sure how anyone would receive it. And when I thought about it, the thought of actually doing this was quite daunting, a little scary. And given I had zero background in any of these things, I had no idea how or where to even get started. So I kept this idea to myself and I did nothing with it. Now, at the time, I was managing a group of Gen Zers, and I was impressed with how they were able to manage their full time jobs while also juggling a side hustle and sometimes multiple side hustles. And that really spoke to me, motivated me, right? To want to maybe look at something I could be doing on the side, even if it was just for fun. So I went back to this idea, pondered it a little more, and I thought, all right, if, if, all in capitals, if I were to do a podcast, I thought, well, maybe it could be fun if I did it with one of my other dear friends I had at the time. I always felt me and this friend, we had some of the most intellectual conversations around life, art, politics. Silly stuff was never off limits. We laughed a lot. And I was absolutely convinced that other people would absolutely enjoy hearing us talk. We never bickered, right? We never bickered with one another because we were fairly in agreement on most things. But I really thought that it was interesting how we got to that agreement, right? Even though our thoughts and opinions were very similar, it was the different journeys our brains took to get to those opinions. And right or wrong, I had this crazy thought that maybe, just maybe, other people would enjoy listening to our gab sessions as well. So, ego, maybe. But fortunately, unfortunately, my friend had zero interest in doing a podcast. And that was totally and completely fine, right? This was not something she wanted to spend her private time doing. Shocker, I know, right? And so nothing ever came of it. And probably worked out in the end that we didn't do it. So, once again, my little idea never went anywhere. And some more time went by. And then, as it usually goes, life happened. And last year, I found myself going through multiple journeys of my own. Work stuff came up, and I had to spend quite a bit of time down in Austin, Texas. I had to uproot my whole life for 8 weeks, took my dog on a road trip that she did not enjoy, by the way. And I ended up changing roles within my company after my time in Austin, and I ended up taking on more responsibility. Then family life happened, weddings, graduations, and I traveled a lot last year too. I went all over the US, visited places on the other side of the world, even places I never thought in a million years I would ever get to see. So when we hit 2024, I had some pretty odd things going on. I found myself having similar conversations with a few of my friends that made me genuinely pause. Now, two things you should know about me. One, I believe the universe speaks to us, and it's our job to be on the lookout for clues and piece them together the best we can. Second, almost none of my friends are connected. What do I mean by that? I mean, I have a nice small grouping of friends, but they're not connected to one another. I have one friend over here, one of my best friends since junior high. Her name is Jessie. I was in eighth grade when we met. She was in ninth grade. And I think maybe she's met one or two of my friends over the course of our entire friendship. Maybe. And I have some other friends over here, a few that I used to work together. Um, and I can honestly say for certain, they've never met any of my other close friends. And so maybe they've heard of each other's names, I'm sure at one point or another, maybe in a story, but that's probably about it. So it made me genuinely pause when a few of my friends each came to me separately and independently, encouraging me to share my positivity with the world. Yes, that is how they phrased it. I needed to share my positivity with the world. One friend mentioned that they felt happier after we spoke, which of course made me feel good, right? That's why we have friends. We take in each other's counsel, and they're there for me when I'm standing on shaky ground, and I'm there for them when they're standing on shaky ground. But this idea that I needed to share my knowledge with the world, well, let's just say it gave me a really good giggle. And I appreciated their sentiments, but at that moment we just left it there. So some time goes by, and I'm having a conversation with my dear friend Jessie, and we're chatting, and all of a sudden she says to me, in the most loving way possible, mind you, you know, you haven't exactly had the easiest life, especially right now with what you're dealing with. And side note, truth be told, I was in it. I was dealing with some very heavy things. And she goes on to say that she is amazed at how I am still able to stand up, smile, be happy, and still have the ability or care to want to help other people find their happiness. And she said, you really need to consider sharing how you do this with other people. So Upon hearing this, again, had a good giggle, and I just said, "Thank you. I'm genuinely flattered. But girl, let's face facts here. I am turning 45 in June, which is right around the corner from the time I am recording this. I've never been married, very single today. I have no human children. I do have an amazing little Yorkie named Lulu Joy, who I absolutely spoil and adore, but I don't own a home and still have student loan payments. I'm not exactly a shining example of living the dream. So, whether she liked it or not, she let me have that opinion of myself and we let it go. Fast forward a bit, and I'm having a conversation with my therapist. Her name is Amy, and I tell her that my friends think I have somehow cracked the code and am now mastering adulting, and that I should teach it or start a podcast and help other people find happiness. Now, I legit expected Amy to share in my laughter, right? Because it's a crazy idea, but she didn't. And like a true counselor, she asked me why I thought this was a funny idea. And after my laughter slowed down, I was like, if someone perceives me as succeeding in this life, if someone from the outside is looking in and thinks I somehow have figured out adulting, it would all be because of you. If I then were to share any of this with the world, if anyone actually listened, then I would basically be taking your advice and your exercises, slapping my name on them, and stealing your thunder. Now, Amy was really good about it, and she likened it to a professor teacher relationship and told me there really is no difference between her and I and that of when a student graduates and goes out into the world, reteaching, resharing the knowledge they just learned. And she gave me permission to talk about these things. So here I am. Here I am. Uh, my life is certainly far from perfect. Like I said a few minutes ago, I am about to turn 45 in a few weeks, never married, very single, no human children. I don't even own a home. But I do acknowledge what my friends were saying to me. While my life has not been the easiest, I have experienced many versions of loss, lost loved ones, lost friendships, traumas, struggled with mental health, you name it. And yet, I will admit, even at that moment when I was discussing this crazy idea with my friends, I was going through some very heavy things of my own. Very tough time for me. But I will admit, I was fortunate to have built up a set of skills that I have been learning over the course of 9+ years of working on myself and was able to get my smile back and once again feel genuinely happy and blessed. It's taken me a really long time to get to this point. It has not been an easy road to walk on these last handful of years. I put in a ton of hours working on myself, evaluating my responses, my actions, evaluating who I am as a person, understanding all the personalities that surround me. And so I know how to respond to each and every one of them. I had to learn how to let things go, which was really hard for me. I'm kind of a control freak. And I had to learn how to forgive when an apology is never given to me in return. I've had to learn how to detach my feelings and my emotional ties to certain people in order to remove their power over me. And like I said, I've been working on myself for almost 10 years. And so when I pull all of that together, when I pull everything together, what my friends are telling me, what my therapist is confirming, when I when I look at the clues that the universe keeps bringing to me, right? This idea of doing a podcast keeps coming back to the forefront of my brain for some unknown reason. I don't know why. I think that this is why I've ultimately decided to trial this thing out. I have no idea how I will be received. And I give you full permission. Anyone listening, you are free to laugh at me. I laugh at myself often. If one person outside my friends or my family downloads this, then that's already a win. I do want to state though, if anyone out there is listening to this, and if we ever broach a topic that is really hard for you, or revisiting certain moments in your life is triggering, and you find yourself really struggling, please seek help. I am not a licensed anything, okay? I am simply sharing how I navigate this world, but it's certainly not the absolute perfect way, and it's okay to seek help when you need it. So please, 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 please promise me you will do that. All right. So now that we've established a high level understanding of how I got here, let me share with you what you can expect to hear from me during our time together. This sounds so funny to say, but the vision I have, the vision, right? The vision I have in my head looks like this. I thought, okay, well, maybe we'll spend some time each week first catching up on some LPs or whatever is happening in my world. And then we'll dive into one of the life hacks my friends feel I need to start sharing with the world. These tools and techniques I have spent the last 9+ years working on. If anyone is wondering what an LP is, that is a term my nephew coined, and it simply stands for Libby's problem. For those of you that are only getting to know me now, like I said, my nephew coined this phrase, oh gosh, a couple years ago now. And it helped him understand how to react to some of my stories. So when I would say to him, hey, I need to talk to you about something really important, he has learned in dealing with me that he needs to ask, is this a Libby problem or is this a real world problem? So that way he knows how to adjust accordingly. So I would say any of the topics we talk about early on in the first couple of minutes of this podcast, I think it's safe to say um, many of them will be considered a Libby problem, but I'll try to filter in some real world stuff as well. Um, some of the topics might include politics. I think it's safe to say, given we are entering into a very heated election cycle, I can all but guarantee we're going to discuss it. Not the who's right or who's wrong, right? There's plenty of avenues and outlets to have those conversations. But I want to talk about how do we manage everything? How do we manage all of these heated debates that are going on all around us? And how do we stay sane through it all? I do love me some pop culture. So I would anticipate some time dedicated to these fun topics as well. And then, like I said, we'll dive into some work. I think a common message I hear a lot of people saying, whether it's online, the socials, with friends and family, is that life is really crazy right now. And even if we're fortunate to have things going good in our personal life, maybe even professionally, I don't think we can ignore the events that are happening all around us outside our picket fence that could be adding unknown stress to our daily life. So, we're going to talk about all of that stuff. I set a goal to record at least one new podcast a week. And I'm going to try really hard to keep myself accountable to that. Okay. So I've shared with you how we got here. I've laid down some expectations of what you can expect during our time together. And now I should probably share a little bit about who I am, right? For anyone who doesn't know me, who the heck is Libby? Well, for starters, I am born and raised in Minnesota. Sorry, the accent is strong. Bonus points to anyone that already figured it out. I have a degree in early childhood education, but currently working in sales. So, money well spent. Um, I consider myself to be a spiritual person, but also religious. So for me, they're the same thing. And you'll hear me mix them together quite a bit. If I say I'm manifesting, I don't see how that's any different from saying a prayer, right? Now, I could be totally alone on that island, and that's okay. If you're listening and you're like, what is she talking about? Those two are not the same thing. We can disagree. But I'm just saying, in my head, it all makes sense. I'm also a proud Gen Xer, and I personally think the 90s was one of the truly greatest decades of all time. Music, fashion, TV shows that came out of this era, truly unbeatable. However, one of my absolute favorite movies of all time is a movie called To Sir with Love. If you haven't heard of it or seen it, seek it out, put it on your watch list. Highly recommend. It was basically the original Dangerous Minds. It's set in 1967. I think it's 1967. I could be wrong, but I think it was set in 1967 and it's filmed in a rough part of London. Sidney Poitier stars in the movie and his character is just inspiring. And he at this movie, his character actually is what inspired me to want to get into education in the first place. Highly recommend giving it a watch. The music, the fashion, it's really, really that good. And side note on the movie, my animals are actually named after characters from this movie. I had a little guy a few years ago named Potter or Potts, and he was just as scrappy as that character was in the movie. And my current little princess is a 3.5 pound Yorkie named Lulu Joy. And she is named after the talented actress and singer Lulu, who stars in the movie and sings the title song. So you could say I'm a fan. But on the flip side, I could also recite almost word for word lines from the very first Friday movie. So, you know, balance. Um, always keep them guessing, right? Let's see. What else should I share today to help you get to know who I am? I would say for music, I listen to a lot of different music genres. I'll dip from Green Day over to Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel to some big band. Love anything from the golden oldies era. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Etta James, Rosemary Clooney, Glenn Miller. My tastes are very eclectic, but one important fact about me from the beginning, from my tween years, I've always been a boy band girl. So New Kids on the Block, Boys to Men, Belle Biv DeVoe, NSYNC, 98 Degrees. And now, as you guys get to know me, if you don't already, I'm kind of obsessed with BTS. I'm actually considered a baby army, which always makes me laugh given my age, but I legit didn't get turned on to these guys until January 2023, which means I basically hopped on board this fandom a month after Jin left the military or left for the military, I think. And so for anyone who knows, for any army out there, um, I'm sorry. You know, of course I always knew who they were, but I never really gave them any attention because like I said, I was busy working on myself, okay? It's taken me 10 years to find the party, but I'm here now and it makes me giggle at how dumb I was before joining the BTS fandom. Like, I remember when I saw JK was performing at the World Cup and thinking, oh, he left the group. He's going solo. I had no idea. And at the time when Jin entered the military, I didn't know his name was Jin. I just saw a news story that said a member of BTS was going into the military. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I guess he doesn't want to be in music anymore, going in the military. Right? I thought that was noble, but clearly had zero knowledge of anything that was going on in their worlds, in the fandom. But I want to say that I am learning. I am figuring it out. Um, for those that might not know, of anything that I'm talking about, unlike in the US, Korea is a country that requires all able bodied men to spend a certain amount of time in their military. So currently, all the members, all 7 members, are serving time in their military. Um, if anyone is interested, my bias, as the kids say, would be Suga or Yoongi. I absolutely adore him. Went, got on an airplane, flew to Chicago to see his concert last year, which was super fun. I think his rapping skills are quite hypnotic. But I will say, V, Taeyong, he is like right behind Suga, like if not right next to him. I love, love, love his album Layover. Anytime I see a video of him crooning to a 1940s style ballad, like I fell in love with him. And anytime I see just video of him being himself, if you haven't looked yourself, his personality is just so freaking cute. I swear we need to wrap this man in bubble wrap to protect him from the world around him. I will say though, after spending a year and a half getting to know these guys, I think they're all pretty adorable, ridiculously talented, and they all appear to just be genuine human beings, which is very rare. So I kind of get why people become obsessed with them because they're genuine, they're real, and they're kind. And that is not something we see often. Um, but with that, I haven't really had a chance to spend time getting to know Jin because he's been in the military the whole time I've been part of the fandom. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know him. I all I know is that he's the oldest, he's funny, a little goofy, and that he does food segments or food series, which I'm all in for because I love food. So those are some of the things I'm looking forward to learning about Jin when he leaves the military in about 2 weeks. Let's see. What else? I'm a huge WWE fan. It's usually my random factoid I share in icebreaker sessions at work because most people look at me and they would not think I follow the WWE, but I have been a proud follower pretty much my entire life. So I love it. The Rock, Edge, Hardy Boys, Lita, Naomi, those are just some of my faves. My favorite colors, black, purple, and white. Bonus point if you ever see me wearing anything outside that color scheme. I have curly hair. Why is that important, you might ask? I think I think it's important because curly haired people are born with a superhero skill. Can I say that out loud? If any other curly hair people out there, we are born with a superhero skill that our curly hair helps develop over time. And that skill is patience because we style our hair the same way every day. And yet, every day, we get a different result. And that does something to the psyche. Okay. It builds character and it has certainly made me into the person I am today. All right. I think I've shared enough. I've given you enough information to help us get started getting to know each other. Um, Next pod, we're going to focus on things we can control versus things we can't control. So, thank you for spending time with me today on my very first pod. Depending on when you are listening, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Have a great week. And I look forward to chatting with you again soon. Peace out, friends.